Hi there, RC Girl here. Behind me, we have the Axial RBX kit. I just finished building it. Super sick. Axial recently released the kit version. Previously, they had the RTR. Today, we're gonna talk about the differences between the kit and the RTR. I'm gonna go over some of the build highlights, what you'll need to complete it, talk about the electronics I spec'd it with, and talk about my early impressions. Stay tuned. So if you're new to my channel, welcome. Here you're gonna find RC reviews, tips and tricks, run videos, flight videos, and other things related to RC. So if you guys wanna see more, make sure you like and subscribe. Also head over to my Instagram, Facebook, and Patreon. Do a lot of behind the scenes stuff, so between videos, make sure to check those out. If you follow me on Instagram, you might have seen that I posted about this about a month before it was supposed to be released on accident. Whoops. This is the 1/10 scale RBX10 RYFT 4-wheel drive rock bouncer from Axial. This kit comes disassembled, so you're gonna need to assemble everything yourself and also supply your own electronics. If you're new to rock bouncing, which I'm not super familiar with rock bouncing, I looked up a couple YouTube videos and it looks freaking insane. They do these crazy hill climbs. They look pretty much not doable, but they try them anyway. And they are basically built for getting gnarly. I would say like a rock crawler on steroids. The RTR version did come with unlocked diffs, so it might be challenged by more technical terrain. You're gonna get some wheel spin, but the kit version does come with a locker spool, so you could choose to lock out one of the 3 diffs. It suggests the center diff, so that's what I went with. They are gonna be selling this separately, so you can lock out all the diffs if you want. It's also 2-speed capable, so I decided actually to go with the 2-speed shifting mechanism. Might actually be really good in this case. You can get nutty on those hill climbs and then shift into a lower gear and get on that more technical terrain. Briefly, the differences between the kit and the RTR. First, the kit comes with rear sway bars. The torque of the motor is going to twist the rig. So with the sway bars, it's gonna level that out a little bit. It also has updated axles. I know there've been some breakage in some of the RTR, so they did update that in the kit version. It also comes with a really nice dyeable gray cage. I did a poll on Instagram about whether I should dye it or keep it gray, and like 70% of you guys said I should dye it. I ended up keeping it gray. I thought it looked really cool with the camo wrap from SOR Racing. It also comes with 1 locker spool to lock out one of the diffs. And then lastly, the rear trailing arms have been reinforced with these aluminum plates. So that's gonna add some rigidity, hopefully prevent some breakage there. So let's dive into the build. Before we kick this off, I want to say a huge thank you to our sponsor for this video, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for creative and curious people like you and me. Skillshare makes it super easy to turn your curiosity into a new skill with classes on topics including photography, 3D printing, drone flying and aerial videography, to logo and web design. And I'm just scratching the surface with all the classes that they offer. I recently took a class on learning Premiere Pro and how to edit a how-to video for beginners by Elise Narvaez. While I've been using Premiere Pro for a while now, I was self-taught, so this class broke down the basics from the Premiere interface all the way to exporting your first video. And it's less than $10 a month with an annual subscription. The first 1,000 people to sign up using my link in the description box below are gonna get a free trial membership of Skillshare Premium. There's no better time to create something meaningful with Skillshare's online classes. Thanks again to Skillshare. Now back to the Axial RBX. All right, first let's talk about the suggested tools and what you need to complete this. For this build, for the first time, I actually invested in a nice set of hex bits. These are the Power Hobby hex bits from 1.5 millimeters to 3 millimeters. And with these, I did not strip out 1 screw in the entire kit. So awesome. They fit into the screw heads really nicely. They can be used with the hand attachment or an electric screwdriver, so they fit onto my Ryobi electric driver. So would definitely suggest an electric screwdriver. If you have one, it's definitely gonna speed up the build for you. Use that to screw the screws in 90% of the way and then hand tighten the screws so you don't over tighten anything. Next, I picked up some shock pliers. I should have gotten these a long time ago. These are to grab onto your shock shaft so you can screw on the ends. These are also great for getting those little pesky ball ends in and out of your rod ends and your shock ends. There are also a couple nuts and lock nuts in the build. So you're gonna need a socket wrench or a little T-wrench. All of the lubricants are provided in the kit. Your oils, your grease, and your thread lock all included. As far as electronics to complete this, you're going to need a motor ESC combo, a receiver transmitter, a steering servo, and if you're using the 2-speed, you're also going to need a shift servo. Also going to need to provide your own LiPo batteries and charger. And I think that's it. I'm going to talk about all the electronics I went with in a little bit more detail. Let's now dive into the build highlights. All the bags are easily labeled. All the screws are separated out. Even if they're in the same bag, they're all separated out by step. It was super easy to follow. The instructions were very easy to follow for the most part. I don't think there were any errors in the manual. One of the bags did come with one size of the wrong screw. Other than that, it was super easy to follow. Nice job by Axial. For me, this build took about a week. I did it over the course of a couple evenings and part of weekends. First, you start off with assembling the 3 diffs. As I mentioned, the kit comes with 1 locker spool. I ended up locking out the center as suggested. So instead of installing the differential gear set, you install the spool. The kit comes with 1 million weight diff oil, which is pretty thick. This should help reduce some of the freewheel spin. The front and rear axles are solid axles. It comes with these metal diff cases. When building these, the axles actually look really nice and heavy duty. I haven't done any durability testing yet. We're definitely going to do that in part 2 of this video where we do the run. These have been reinforced in the kit version from the RTR, so hopefully we won't have any breakage issues. When you're finished building your front axle, this is when you install your steering servo. So I went with the Power Hobby 729 MBL. I've also been running this in my SEX10 II. It's quiet, fast. You can run it off high voltage, I think up to 8.4 volts. So if you want to run your BEC at a higher voltage, it can definitely handle that. It also comes waterproof from the factory. I think it's a nice happy medium on price, durability. Next, you assemble the links, which are not my most favorite part, probably not everyone's favorite part of a build, but keep an eye out for the orientation. It does have a little line mark in one of the sides of the links, so you can get the orientation of the ball ends correct. This is where the shock pliers are going to come in handy here, so you can snap those ball ends in super quickly. For the transmission, it does come with a 2-speed transmission. If you don't want to use that, you can choose to lock it out. I decided to keep that in, so in which case you're going to need to have a micro servo for the shifting mechanism. It suggests a Spectrum SX107. I haven't had the best of luck with those. I've burned up quite a few of those. The servo saver though is proprietary, so if you do go with a different type of micro servo like I did, I went with the Power Hobby PH59. It can also be run off 8.4 volts if you want. Metal gears. It's a lot more upgraded from the SX107. I do have to figure out a shifting mechanism though. Their servo horn from the SX107 doesn't fit on it, so we'll have to figure something out there. If you guys have any suggestions, let me know in a comment below. Our shocks are so long. People keep asking, are those 110 millimeter shocks like the Bomber? No, they're actually 130 millimeters on the front, 145 on the rear. So they are crazy long. The rear springs do rub a little bit, so you can hear like this sort of squishy, springy noise. Because they are super long, I can see how a bad hit can definitely lead to bending some of your shock shafts. So keep an eye out for that. Really nice that the shocks have a bleed port so you can bleed all the air out of your shocks. It's going to really help with shock performance. Next, the cage assembly. Pretty straightforward. There are some places where it's hard to tell what screw goes in where. Pretty quick assembly though, and I did end up keeping it gray. I thought the gray looked super cool. You can dye it a different color if you want though with the RIT dyes. I did that on the shock caps to my Axial Bomber. I'll put a link to that video up here if you want to check it out. The kit does come with large diameter wild bore drive shafts. They are made of plastic. Pretty easy assembly. Make sure to line the Axial logos so you make sure that your drive shafts are in the correct face. This kit also has some really cool scale details like these faux rotors and brake calipers. The rotors do actually rotate with the wheels inside the calipers, kind of cool. Our rims are Raceline Monster rims. These are plastic rims. It's not a beadlock, so you are going to have to glue your tires to the rims using CA or super glue. The tires are freaking beefy. These are bigger than what come on the Bomber. These are Intercoat Super Swamper TSL 3-stage lug bogger tires. Freaking massive. Actually threw out the lock nuts that come in the tire bag. I must have just thrown it out on accident, not noticing that they were in that bag. It's an M5 by 0.8. Luckily, the hardware store did carry these. For my receiver transmitter, I went with the SR315 3-channel receiver, so I'm going to be able to use this with my DX5 Rugged. For the 3 channels, I have my motor, my steering servo, and my shift servo. And there's also a spare port just for power, so I'm able to power the fan on my ESC. For my motor ESC, I went with a Castle censored setup. I know, shockingly, this is my first time trying out a Castle setup. Because I want to do a little bit of crawling with this, I didn't want any cogging on the low end, so a censored setup is going to know the exact position the motor's in upon startup. I'll put a link to a really great video that explains censored setups in way more detail than I'll go into here, but basically you can start up the motor really smoothly on the low end and also have a ton of speed. I went with the new Castle Copperhead 10. I actually got the monster truck combo. It comes with a 2400 kV motor. The pinion that comes in the kit is a 17-tooth pinion. It fits a 5mm diameter motor shaft, which is actually quite a big motor shaft. The 14 series motor actually did come with a 5mm shaft, but I was sent a 3.17mm. So if you're running a smaller diameter motor shaft, you're gonna have to get an adapter. I'll put a link to the one I got on Amazon. Came really quickly and it works just fine. And since the ESC is visible between the driver and the passenger, I wanted something that's gonna look kind of cool. It looks really neat with the Copperhead Viper. This is also a mid-tier ESC, so you're gonna get some tunability. You're gonna be able to adjust things like your drag brake, your braking strength, your throttle and your braking profiles, your battery type, the low voltage cutoff point if you're using LiPo batteries. It also has a temperature cutoff. If your ESC gets too hot, it'll shut down for you. You can program the ESC just using the throttle trigger, or you can purchase the Castle Link. I already had one because I have a Castle BEC. The box included a coupon code to pick one of those up for free, or a coupon code to pick up a programming card for $10. This is a 70mm length motor, which is probably the maximum size you would go with. It fit, but just barely. I might have to do a little bit of dremeling. It does hit the end of where the links attach. I went with the 2400 kV, so a little bit higher kV. I might need to mess around with the gearing, or I can adjust the throttle rate or endpoint on my DX5 Rugged. Definitely a lot of room to play around. It was reasonably priced for a censored motor ESC combo, around $200 at the time of filming this, and I did spend my own money on it. I was curious to try a different motor ESC combo than I've tried in the past. I'll keep you guys updated on how I like that long term. For my body panels, I went with an SOR vinyl wrap. They make a wrap series for the Rift. I'll put a link to that in the description box below. This is the City of Camo in gray. I thought it'd match really nicely with the gray cage. Turned out super sick. It looks really, really mean. I like it a lot. I'm not going to go into a ton of detail about how to install the wrap. I have a full video on that where I install step by step in my SCX-10-2 Jeep Cherokee. The one on my SCX-10-2 has held up really nicely. For my battery and charger, I went with the Gens Ace Adventure Series 4300 3S battery. You can also run this on 4S, but I've heard of a lot of people getting crazy, breaking parts. I'm not one to overpower my rigs, so first we'll try it out on 3S. This is the Gens Ace IMAX charger. Nice and portable. You can take it out into the field. I'll put links to these in the description box below. Overall, this kit was super, super fun to build. I think the upgrades in the kit versus the RTR are definitely going to reinforce some of the weaker points. The shocks do seem pretty long, so we'll keep an eye on those, make sure that we're not going to bend any shock shafts. I'm excited to test out the censored motor ESC combo. Stay tuned for part 2. We're going to take this out and have some fun with it. I'm going to go up to the rock quarry near my house and we're going to do some crazy hill climbs. Also test it out on more technical terrain. So stay tuned for part 2. Huge, huge thank you to my patrons on Patreon for all your support. Could not do this without you guys. And huge, huge thank you to our sponsor for this video, Skillshare. Thank you to Axial Racing, Power Hobby, Gens Ace, SOR Racing for their support on this build. Stay tuned for part 2. As always, make sure to like and subscribe. I'll see you later.